So here we are under the truck. We're at the rear axle, and we're going to start by removing the drive shaft. We'll start removing the 4 bolts, 2 there and 2 over there. Remove the caps on the U-joint. Alright, now our caps are removed and the 4 8mm bolts were also removed. So now this is just a slip joint. We're going to pop the end. We're going to go toward the front of the truck with the U-joint. Now be sure these caps don't come flying off and all your needle bearings everywhere. If you're replacing the U-joint, no big deal. This one's already been replaced. So when I get it out, I will put electrical tape around it just to make sure that they don't fall off while we're removing the transmission later on. It doesn't get kicked, won't get knocked off there. Now that the rear half of the drive shaft is out, there's something I wanted to point out that I do to make my life easier. See that red mark right there? This is the slip joint. I will red paint mark that to make my life easier. Make sure everything's all lined up to going back together. So now we're ready to move on to the second half of the drive shaft removal. This will be from the transfer case on a 4-wheel drive vehicle to the carrier bearing. Now, when they come from the factory, this bolt right here will have a nut that is welded to a clip. Mine, however, had rusted out and the bolt was stuck. I tried penetrating fluid, it would not go. I eventually broke the nut from the clip and it was a pain. But I eventually got it out, and when I got the new carrier bearing installed and pressed onto the drive shaft, I just used regular bolts, regular 1/2-inch bolts. It's working fine, no big deal. Now to remove this front drive shaft, you can see I've got it marked right here just to ensure I got it all lined back up and I go back together. There are 4 12.12mm bolts that get removed here, and then your 2 at your carrier bearing. Now what I'll do is I will loosen these 2 back here till they're just ready to fall off my finger, and then I will take out these 4 right here. Now this shaft, what I've found is that it's usually stuck. It kind of presses in the middle. There's a little flange. I'll show you when I get it off. But it will usually hold itself up there. But if I can get these nuts off then with one finger, I can use my other hand to hold this shaft to make sure it doesn't fall and hit me in the head. So that's how I do it. So I started to remove these 2 bolts, and I realized I told you guys completely wrong. Now in some of you guys' rust-free, or not as rusty as my truck was, vehicles, it might be easier to pull just those 2 bolts. The nuts will stay there, no big deal. On my truck, since it's a pain to get those nuts in and out, especially since the clips are gone and I didn't feel like buying new ones, I had better luck removing these 2 on this side. There's 2 more on the other side of this rail. So it'd be 4 total, 2 there and 2 on the other side. If you remove those 4 nuts, the whole thing comes down. So that's what I do. And here's what the drive shaft looks like after it's removed from the vehicle. Now these are the 4 studs I was talking about with the nuts. Left my 2 nuts on there. Remove the 4 top ones, the whole piece comes off, no big deal. Alright, so here's where I go next. These are the transmission cooler lines. These are on the passenger side of the truck. For a reference point, here's the starter. Here's the back of the engine. So they come from there, they come next to the starter. They go right there. These are I use a 16mm line wrench. I usually just unscrew them and kind of pull them off to the side over here. The next thing I'll be doing is removing the starter. To do that, there are 3 of these 17mm bolts. And these 2 are really easy to get to. The top one is kind of a pain. Now what I usually do is I will take a longer extension and a deep well socket, and I'll snake it up through here and then turn it and get on that top bolt. I just turn my ratchet back and forth right here. Now I usually just pull the starter out and I'll flip it around, and I'll put it nose down on the sway bar. I'll even leave all the wires hooked up. I've never had an issue with this yet. Now that the starter's out, the next thing we're going to move is this plate right here. It's held on with 3 10mm bolts. That's pretty easy. Just take them bolts out and that drops right out. No big deal. Alright, now that's removed. The next thing we're working on the driver's side is your slave cylinder. That's just pretty easy to remove. All you gotta do is grab I just grab a big pair of channel locks and lefty loosey, it comes right out. Make sure you don't kink this hard plastic line. We will also be removing the wiring on this manual transmission with the four-wheel drive. There are only 3 plugs. One is right here on the driver's side of the transfer case. One is right here, which is the bottom of the transfer case. And you've got one right up there on top of the transmission. No big deal. I just unplug them and lay them off to the side. So now we're going to be taking a break from underneath the truck and we're going to work on getting the shifter out. Now, this piece right here just kind of moves out of your way. It's supposed to be hooked in there. Mine wasn't. But mine's actually broke too, right there, as you can see. Mine's held in with only 3 flathead screws. Now, I'm not sure what they come with from the factory. This truck has 295,000 miles. And it's 18 years old, so who knows who's done what here, but mine has flathead screws. Not sure what yours will have there. Next thing I'll do is just flip that kind of inside out there and remove these 2 Allen bolts. This is size 8. Take those bolts out and the shifter comes right out. There's nothing here you got to mark or clock or anything. It's pretty self-explanatory. Take the 2 bolts out, pull the shifter out, and then you can pull this yellow boot out right here. Alright, once that yellow boot is removed, it exposes these 6 Allen bolts. These are size 5. Just use your Allen wrench or socket, whatever you got. Remove those 6 bolts and pick straight up. Now make sure it's in neutral as well. Leave the shifter in neutral for all of this. So here's what it looks like once you get it out of the vehicle. Now mine was RTV'd on. It's this little lip right here. You can actually get a little pry bar underneath that lip, kind of pry against your floor. You might bend your floor up a little bit. Be careful doing it that way. But this one was really pretty stuck. But yeah, it just pops right up out of there, and I'll clean it up when I go back together with it and just use some RTV again. So here's a little bend up in the floor right here. Nothing too bad, nothing I can't pop back out, especially once you get the transmission out. You just a little hammer, pop it back out. But here's what it looks like down in there once you get her apart. Again, I'll clean that up and re-RTV it when I go back together with it. And I'll throw a rag over it for now, and tomorrow hopefully get the transmission pulled out.